everyone. On behalf of AAE board member and Director of Professional Development, Alicia Scott, it's my pleasure to welcome you to another webinar hosted by the American Association for Employment and Education as we continue to support pre-K through 12 educator preparation, recruitment, and retention. Thank you for joining us for today's topic, substitute teaching as both a pipeline and retention strategy. My name is Tim Newbert, and I serve as AAE's Executive Director. Please allow me to cover just a few housekeeping matters before we begin. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available to AAE members as well as non-members who registered for the event. Attendees are encouraged to post any questions, comments, or feedback using the Q&A or chat features within Zoom. If you or your organization do not yet have AAE membership, please visit our website, aaee.org, to learn more about our activities and resources. We are a professional association intent on positively impacting education through professional connections, connecting the three critical groups involved with the preparation, recruitment, and retention of pre-K-12 educators, that being university professionals and others who prepare and support them, university professionals and others who prepare and support educators, school system professionals and others who recruit, hire, and retain them, and of course, educator candidates themselves. We offer annual publications such as the Job Search Handbook for Educators. We conduct an educator supply and demand survey each fall and winter, resulting in a spring report. In cooperation with Youngstown State University in Ohio, we recently conducted a new survey entitled Job Satisfaction Needs of Entry-Level K-12 Educators, Finding the Tipping Points. We co-host the careersforeducators.com job board with Kappa Delta Pi. We host webinars such as this one on topics relevant to our membership. We sponsor scholarships for future teachers and mini grants for school systems to encourage and support educator pipelines. We co-host an annual national working group on teacher retention in collaboration with Upbeat. And we host an annual conference and education career expo each fall. Our October 2024 event will be held in Denver, Colorado. Joining me for today's webinar are Dr. Nama Reitman and Jasmine Smith from Scoot Education. Thank you both for being here today. We look forward to learning from your knowledge and insights. I'll now turn it over to you, Jasmine.
Tim, thank you so much. We're so excited to be here today. First off, tech is my friend sometimes. So in the event I go on mute and it takes me a second to get back on, I appreciate your grace in advance. Hello, everyone. My name is Jasmine Smith. I'm based in the New York City area, so I'm in Newark, New Jersey. I'm a career educator and recruiter. I've worked for large-scale school districts like Newark Public Schools, as well as private universities like Princeton, but most of my experience has been in charter school recruitment, most namely for KIPP charter schools across the country. Here at Scoot, I lead our work on the East Coast team, so I manage all of our school partners and teammates for the New Jersey, DC, and Florida regions, hopefully to grow on the East and Midwest states pretty soon. And now I'll pass it to my wonderful co-host.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Nama Reitman, and I'm so glad to be with you all today. I am an educator by trade. I've taught with GC Public Schools and with Uncommon Schools. I've been a teacher educator and a teacher prep administrator for over 10 years now, including leading the teaching residency program at Relay Graduate School of Education in New York. At Scoot, I lead our educator training and development initiatives for both our subpool and our Teach Start Fellowship. And so my work for the past 2 years has been focused on substitute teachers and other school support professionals. Jasmine and I are so excited to be here with you today having this conversation about this critical group of educators who are some of the most important people powering our schools and impacting our kids. And so we'd love to tell you a little bit more about who we are at Scoot and what we do. There we go. So Scoot is a human-driven and tech-enabled education staffing partner. We operate in 9 states across the country and 4 countries, filling over 850,000 placements a year globally and growing. Our mission is creating exceptional experiences in education. And we do that by providing bespoke and white glove staffing solutions for the various roles that schools need to fill each day. Of note of our work is that every educator in school that partners with us has a dedicated education consultant that can best understand educator and partner needs and how to support. We also operate our Teach Start Fellowship, which is our substitute to certification pipeline that accelerates the pathway into teaching by doing three things: recruiting diverse talent, removing financial and bureaucratic barriers into the profession, and providing high-quality training. We support schools both in the short and long term by placing our fellows in substitute teaching roles while empowering them to obtain a full credential. This school year alone, Teach Start will train over 350 new teachers in California and Arizona, fill over 40,000 substitute vacancy days, impact over 10,000 students a day, and create millions of dollars in wage growth opportunities for our fellows. We're so glad to be here with you today and to talk more about substitute teachers. So let's get started.
Awesome. Thanks, Nama. So in this session, we'll investigate the vital role that substitute teachers play in our school ecosystems and how these teachers can enable innovative staffing models. We will discuss ways to build and leverage this talent pool and pipeline, upskill your substitutes, and provide consistent learning opportunities and outcomes. So our main core idea today, which you can see on the screen, is how can we work together and towards minimizing future teaching shortages, diversifying the teaching force, and at the same time solve immediate school staffing challenges. Now I'm going to let us start with that now.
So let's talk a little bit about what we know to be true and some of the challenges that all of us in this webinar today know that our schools are facing. Schools are in the middle of a staffing drought. The pools that we're used to having, whether it be from traditional programs and alt-cert programs, are starting to dry up a little bit. And so we need to innovate. Enrollment in teacher prep programs has been decreasing a bit over time, and along with other factors, this creates a situation where approximately 20% of schools are operating with at least one unfilled vacancy. We know that these staffing needs are impacting students in very real ways. I'm sure we all know the scenarios where students are grouped together in an auditorium or cafeteria watching a movie because of coverage challenges. And these times when students are without a teacher are not contributing to the academic gains that we know our kids need. This is also an equity issue, as high-need schools are more likely to have coverage needs and remaining vacancies. And so I'll hand it back to Jazz to talk about how these challenges impact the educator experience.
Awesome. Thanks, Nama. So big picture, we know three other things. We know that teacher burnout is not just a phrase, it is a real issue that most schools are facing. And a key lever to addressing burnout is substitute teachers. We also know that students will spend statistically almost a full year out of their K-12 experience under the instruction of a substitute teacher. And then lastly, we know that substitute teacher shortages are real as well. And so some of our states have actually responded with lessening or even removing barriers to even becoming a substitute teacher. So we'll talk about some of that today. So I know you're thinking, you guys just told me all the things that are wrong. So now what? Well, we promise all is not lost. There are so many educators, schools, and organizations that are approaching this situation with creativity and resolve. One critical solution that is most effective is leveraging a substitute teaching pool. It can do a couple things for you. By building a robust pool of supporting and supportive substitute teachers, you can also support an aspiring educator pipeline, as well as making sure that your schools and kids have people who they need. We're also breaking down barriers to entry for the profession. People who you never thought could be teachers might want to start out as subs, and that opens your educator pool. Providing healthier working conditions for your full-time teachers. We'll talk about what that looks like in just a few. Also being able to enable some really innovative staffing models. And then so let's delve into these three buckets now, right? About breaking down our barriers, providing healthier working conditions, and enabling these staffing models. The cold is getting to me, guys, but I'm doing okay. I'll pass it back to Nama so I can take a little bit of a break.
So we believe, and we have seen in our work, that there are so many amazing individuals out there who want to teach when the barriers are removed. So who are our nation's substitute teachers? They're career changers, they're aspiring educators, they're working parents, they're gig and part-time workers who are looking to make a difference. The subpool's strength truly lies in its diversity. So who are our subs? Let's get to know some. We would love to introduce you to Keon and to Laura, and we'll meet them now through this video.
So my husband and I just moved here from Chicago a few months ago. So I was looking for a job. I was very thankful to get a job before I even moved, one with flexibility, as I'm an aspiring comedian and I'm an actor and a playwright and a filmmaker. So this was really just right, like Baby Bear. So no, this is my first time actually subbing, but I taught theater for 10 years in Chicago to a variety of ages, from 18 months up to senior citizens. So I had that experience, but I was looking for something even more flexible, and this has really been the right fit for me.
I mean, I really wanted to just find another way that I could serve my community. I just graduated from college not too long ago, like last year, and I didn't know that it was an option to sub with just a bachelor's. You know, I thought that I had to like go to school for something that was in education. And my background is dance, so I've taught dance for a long time, but I just didn't know that it was an option for me to be able to sub and to help out. And I know that there's a sub shortage and a teacher shortage right now. So like, I really didn't even think about doing this until probably this past September. And now I can't imagine not doing it. It's been so much fun. I'm not sure. Right now, I'm getting my master's in child psychology, so I've been thinking I'd really like to become a school counselor. So this is just giving me that experience, being in a classroom setting, being in a school setting, and just being able to be around the kids more. That way I can get a better idea of what they go through, what they're experiencing while I'm in pursuit of the degree.
Yeah, I've learned a lot from the teachers that I'm teaching with. I'm a teacher's assistant right now for a kindergarten class. And one of my favorite things the teacher does in regards to classroom management is benevolent butterflies. So every class in the school has been assigned a certain insect. In our kindergarten class, they are the butterflies. And so the benevolent butterflies, the way it works is anytime a kid is caught being good, they get a butterfly, their name on it, and they put it into a bowl. And during circle time, the teacher will occasionally draw out a name. That child will come forward and then call in a few different kids who say good things about them. And they love it, and it works. It's great positive reinforcement.
All right. I hope you guys really enjoyed meeting Keon and Laura. We know it's because of educators like them that's why I wanted to do this presentation today, to let you know that unconventional times will call for unconventional educators. And we think that there's some things that our substitutes really bring to schools by way of creating pipelines and doing this work, such as subbing, helping non-traditional candidates get their foot in the door. People who you would never have thought of being great teachers, like Laura or Keon, are having great experiences in school. Career changers can also learn how to leverage their skills, project management, customer service, client support. All of these things are very transferable to skills, with our stakeholders being our wonderful scholars and families and communities that we serve. Also, exposure to what might be possible for career changers allows for exploration to choose different credential areas and find the right fit. After having gotten experience in different schools with different age groups and different settings, they might find what's really best for them. A great example of that is here in New Jersey. We have an educator. Her name is Miss Burns. Miss Burns in her full-time life is an expert level seamstress. I'm talking Fashion Week every season. She's worked for some big names like Rick Owens. And when she first came to sub in her downtime, she just wanted to do art. That's all she wanted to do, was help kids learn art. Then she subbed in a pre-K4 class, and fell in love with little people. So now she subs in our pre-K4 class. This is her second full school year doing so. But she loves subbing because it affords her the ability to still have her first love. And she goes to Fashion Week for weeks at a time. And we support her with coverage in those spaces. And then she comes back and covers pre-K4 for the rest of the school year. So a wonderful example of what it looks like to allow someone the time to learn what they're really good at. The other thing that substitute teaching will allow your educators or career changers to do is get the time to be certified, right? We know that certification processes differ from state to state and county to county, and sometimes they're intricate. And so while doing this work on the job, you can also help guide them through the process for certification and give them some time to have real world experience and also get their compliance done.
Thanks. And we'd love to tell you a little bit more about what that could look like. So in addition to the flexible part or long-term substitute teaching work that we heard about from Keon and Laura and the teacher that Jasmine was just describing, another option for substitutes are substitute to certification pipelines. These are a critical and innovative workforce development program that both fills schools' short-term and long-term needs while providing growth opportunities for the candidate. We love to highlight some of the criteria of which design components can make sub-to-cert pipelines a really promising staffing solution. So first, substitute teachers in these pipelines can be paid a full salary and benefits, and so are earning full-time wages for full-time work, in contrast to some other pipelines where teacher candidates earn a stipend or might even need to volunteer their time. Candidates are also able to earn the credential while being compensated, ideally earning said credential at a discounted rate without going into large amounts of debt. There are also abundant wage growth opportunities for candidates as they're able to shift to be on a school or district salary scale after completing their credential. As Jasmine was saying, candidates get real practice and growth in schools, building their skills in critical areas that we know, like classroom management, like routines and procedures, like building relationships with students before taking on the role of teacher of record. Also, both the school and the teacher have the opportunity for teachers and schools to try it out before making a year-long commitment that impacts schools and teams and kids. And so schools are able to benefit from the substitute teacher coverage and from having the chance to get to know the teacher before hire. They also then have the first chance at hiring a really talented new teacher. And lastly, the financial and logistical support that these pipelines can provide are paramount. So many people out there want to become teachers, but navigating the finances and the red tape of getting certified keeps them out. Some groups here that we can consider are international teachers and caregivers. And so the headline here is that sub-to-cert pipelines have significant benefits for candidates, for schools, and for kids, and they can be a way into the profession for many who either haven't had the opportunity or who have struggled to navigate the finances and bureaucracy that it takes in order to become a teacher.
Thanks, Nama. So now that we have discussed substitute teaching as a mechanism for recruiting educators and building the teacher pipeline, let's talk about how substitute teachers are a key function in teacher retention. We know that the workplace is evolving and workplaces across the country are evolving, and practices need to evolve for teachers as well. Employing a building sub can help to cover a variety of absences. Teachers need to be able to have a doctor's appointment, be caregivers, get their car fixed, or go to the dentist in the month that isn't July. In order for school ecosystems to operate smoothly, some teacher absences should be expected and planned for. And the only way to plan proactively is to have enough staff to be able to ensure that these things can proceed. We also know that mental health is very important, and teacher burnout can really lead to poor mental health in certain spaces. And so would you rather to be able to give your teachers periodic mental health days, or have a teacher so burnt out that they need to take a mental health leave? Putting these systems in place can really help healthier classrooms with healthier teachers. One of our school partners in DC named for us that some really popular feedback at their network's Q12 survey was a need for subs. Here are some of the quotes that he shared with us from the anecdotal results. One was, I want to be able to call out and know that my teammates are going to be okay. I don't want to have to use my preps for anything but a prep. I want to have coverage when we need it. I also don't want to feel guilty about going to my sister's wedding. That was a direct quote. Like, I hope she got to go. We also know that PD is rising. The need for our educators to be out of the classroom to help skill them up to be better in the classroom is on the rise, particularly with the recent emphasis on high quality instructional materials. Teachers need the time and space to learn more on the curriculum and have curriculum development and training. Subs are crucial to be able to enable schools to partner and participate in these high quality instructional material PD days. So we think that happier teachers happier classrooms equal happier kids.
And so in addition to improving retention within our current systems, there are so many promising innovations out there in teaching staffing models being discussed and implemented across our field that we find truly exciting. And substitute teachers are a key enabler of these models. Instead of overlooking them in the planning process, we hope to elevate them and intentionally plan for their participation. So how might we further leverage substitute teachers as we plan for and develop these models? First, team teaching and co-teaching models are a great way to leverage substitute teachers. It's not only a great on-ramp for people who are working as subs and might want to pursue a full-time career, it's also constant professional development as they get to learn how to teach from highly qualified individuals and both get to observe them and work with them on a team. Substitute teachers can also enable staffing models like these at a lower cost to schools. And there's a lot of innovation happening around team teaching models and moving away from the traditional teaching staffing structures and towards a more collaborative and specialized paradigm. We need to think about subs in these models as well so that teachers aren't thrust right back into the situation of coverages during all their preps, because we know that absences will inevitably occur. Substitute teaching can also be viewed essentially as an extended job interview, seeing how educators interact with parents, with students, the community. And a partnership with agency can allow a school to work with an educator on a trial basis in a low stakes way, because HR, payroll, et cetera, are outsourced. So the school can make quick and agile staffing decisions and have more time to focus on teaching and learning. Subs can also enable remote staffing models. In circumstances where there's a need for content-specific expertise that needs to come from outside of the school building, a substitute teacher can help staff the classroom to ensure a safe and productive environment for the students. For example, in Newark, one of our partners at Marion P. Thomas Charter School has been piloting a program called Elevate K-12, wherein they have certified online teachers doing live teaching for the students and need someone in the building to ensure student safety and culture. Programs like these are likely on the rise, especially in some rural areas, and we want to make sure that all students have access to certified teachers, particularly in specialized content areas. And so substitute teachers can help enable models like those by ensuring that students' needs are met during these times. And then finally, another way that we're thinking about to leverage substitute teaching is to enable compensated student teaching opportunity via partnerships between districts, staffing partners, and institutions of higher education, so that when possible, candidates can work in long-term substitute teaching roles in order to meet their student teaching requirements while getting paid.
All right, I know what you're thinking. How can I implement this in my building now, Nama, and now, Jasmine? We got you guys. So firstly, we need you guys to think about your school. Know what your building's grade level, know what your grade level or building strengths are. What skills are already on lock in your building? You got content covered, need someone who has culture. You got culture covered, need someone who has content, or you need someone who has both. But being able to identify what you're strong at teaching will allow you to find someone that you're willing to take a risk on because you can teach that the thing they're missing. Opening your mind to non-traditional candidates in order to create a bigger pool is also really important. Thinking about our substitutes, some of those folks who come with those transferable skills, these are often things that schools overlook or don't think about. They look for direct application. You taught before here, you can teach here. Not thinking about, again, those project management skills, R&D from a lot of our other companies and corporate spaces that are really transferable to schools. Something that completely goes missing sometimes in schools is thinking about our service industry workers. A great bartender or a waitress makes a fantastic first-year co-teacher. They have had to manage multiple classroom tables and fussy stakeholders for years. These folks have great practice with being attentive and making sure that everyone has what they need. A quick aside, a few years back, I got a referral from a fantastic teacher. When I first saw the resume, I didn't see any school experience. The person was actually a regional manager for Chipotle. And I was thinking, oh, this, but let me give it a shot because the teacher was so fantastic. When I interviewed him, I learned he had so many transferable skills, that he had successfully run training and development across the country, opening whole Chipotle schools, Chipotle schools, opening Chipotles across the country. And so after talking to him and his ability to make a lesson plan, to teach it to adults at different levels of learning and different levels of how they accept or understand new information, he was basically a classroom teacher for Chipotle. Mr. Ivan is currently a dean of students at one of our schools that we support now from Scoop in New Jersey. He's still one of my favorite referrals and one of my favorite stories to tell. I'll send him this video so he can see it. Lastly, referrals are king. You are only 1 or 2 degrees of separation away from a great educator. Every time I hired someone, whether that be for the district, whether I'm working for corporations, my second question was, first, hey, are you excited to join us? And they should always say yes. And the second question was, do you have any friends for me? Anyone else who you think could join our team that has the same energy as you or experience as you? Knowing who knows who is always going to be super helpful for you. So think about it. Who have you worked with? Who is that great educator next to you, that classroom next to yours, that principal friend? Do they have someone that they can refer? But great educators know great educators. So don't be afraid to ask.
And so now that we've built up our pool with some of these great tips, let's talk about how to support our subs. Just like our kids need support, so do our teachers, so do our substitute teachers. These tips are geared towards those of us who work in schools, but we know there's so many great folks across our field on the call who will join forces to really recognize the important work that our subs are doing and make sure they're supported in the environments that they're working in. So first off, training. Most subs have little to no access to training, and ensuring they have the basics on how the school community operates, foundational classroom management skills, how to build relationships and internalize lesson plans on the uniquely short time frame that our substitute teachers are asked to do this on a daily basis. These are key pieces of success for substitute teachers. Schools and school districts can conduct these internally, or they can outsource to a vendor. Second, a greeting kit. When welcoming a new sub, please make sure that they have what they need to be successful. We recognize that this is a really challenging thing to do with all of the competing priorities and general busyness that school staff have, but it can be built out in advance and routinized to make it as simple and as efficient as possible. Think access to any login information subs need, particularly things like taking attendance, right? Or keys to access specific areas of the building, a one-pager or any marketing materials that the school has to share with parents or community members. For example, at KIT Miami, they have a sub bag for each person who enters their building ready to go. It has an adult restroom key, a school key card, a computer with any lesson plans that the person is going to need on Google Classroom, a schedule, and a welcome sheet that has things like meet the administrators in the school building, or here's how you use the phone lines in the school. Again, this can be put together in advance and really helps your subs to feel welcome and valued and set up for success for the day. Also, not to be overlooked is making sure subs know about any important events happening that day. Things like assemblies, right, or special events that are outside of the routine. We've heard many stories from our subs about things like emergency drills that they weren't aware of, but that were pre-planned for the day. So make sure to let subs know if these things are happening in your building and also provide them with procedures to follow. If that's not possible in advance, then we recommend assigning out-of-classroom staff in the school to collaborate with a sub during these key moments, right? Because our subs shouldn't be reliant on students for key safety information. We want to empower them to have that as they head throughout the school day. Next is sub plans. If we want to have subs, we need a plan. This helps both our teachers of record who might be out for the day and our substitute teachers feel confident about what's going to happen. So it isn't just about showing a video anymore. I'm sure many of us of a certain age have images of like the TV cart rolling into the classroom, right? We don't want days to be lost without when teachers are out. So the best way for that to happen is a sub as opposed to having to do things like combine classes. And so ensure that lesson plans are easily understandable for somebody who doesn't work in the building every day. too many acronyms or jargon, and our students might wind up playing 7-Up for the whole period. There's lots of best practices here, things like standardizing templates across the building, having emergency sub-plans ready for unexpected absences, as well as more specific plans for absences that are planned so that the learning can continue. And lastly, welcome subs into your school community in order to make sure that they feel valued and feel successful. And also to provide students with an opportunity to see them and really get to know them as part of the school team. We recommend assigning a point person who works with substitute teachers so that they know who to go to for questions and so that they know who their point of contact is in the building. And if they're going to be in the school building long-term, integrate them into the school culture, include them into professional development and other events that the school might be having.
Nama, we did it. Guys, I'm so excited that we got to deliver this information to you today and see some energy already in the chat. So I know Tim will help us with those questions. But on behalf of Nama and myself, the schools that we support, the wonderful kids that we get to support, we are so grateful for your time today. And thank you for being here with us as you begin, or we all begin, on this journey to support our schools in really new and innovative ways. I'll pass it back over to Tim.
Thank you both very much. Appreciate the presentation, appreciate the energy. Let's see, there's a few things in the chat I wanted to pass along or raise up. One person says many of our schools utilize third-party agency vendors or sub-agencies to obtain subs, and there are some that do the support well. But even if a school isn't focused on these supports and are relying solely on the vendor, they're not going to be successful long term. I just thought that was a great comment to be highlighted verbally, and I think it's an important point that, you know, as great as some companies are like Scoot Education, it's important to understand you've got to take some ownership at the school and district level as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, something I would love to say to that too, Tim, is I think just the work that I do with my team to make sure that our schools know that we're partners in this work is we do school visits, right? So before we take on any new school partnership, and this is, I think, unique to Scoop, but I think this is something that if you have other third parties you want to use, you can push. I will never send a sub to any school that I have not been to, right? So I know where you can park. I know what the dress code is. I know how to help them on a more aesthetic level or a base level, how to integrate into their school community. And so we do some of that onboarding ourselves. But yes, schools are vital in that space, but creating the partnership, making sure that the third party knows that you're open to that relationship also goes a long way, because we'll do some of that work as well.
So, also have a comment here. My staff creates a small binder at the beginning of the school year. It has lessons updated quarterly, school-wide calendar, map, contact information for office support and neighboring teachers, etc. Subs loved it, and it helped everyone be successful.
Love that so much, Alicia, right? I'm sure many of us have been in a situation where we have subbed or even walked in or covered, right? Walking into a classroom or a building for the first time, especially with so little time to prepare, can be a really overwhelming experience. And so just being handed that binder, it's like, oh, somebody's planned for me to be here. And I have this physical manifestation of the key information that I need. We love hearing that. Thank you.
So there's a question in the Q&A. What does your starting point look like for the district or agency partnership? So how would a district get started with Scoot or with another agency like yours?
Great question. So it depends on which space you're looking at. So Teach Start and Scoot, while we are one team, one dream, we do have some different points to entry. So for Scoot, we do a couple levels of support. So there's long-term support, which we love to do, and that's very fixed on vacancies that you want to specifically fill. But for larger districts, we have a bubble of subs. So what we allow our districts to do with us in partnership is we build a sub bubble, right? We build some educators that you get to vet and then have into your school system. And then we manage the movement, if you will, of them through schools for different needs and different vacancies. We're also really collaborative in the space of what the billing looks like or the charge rates for schools to make sure that we never want to put a school under to support them, right? So very flexible and very communal in the work of making sure that it is fiscally responsible for our educators and for our school partners. I'll pass over to Nam to share a little bit more about how the Teach Start work happens in terms of placing fellows.
Similar to what she said, I think it's just about really getting to, like Tim, you were saying a few minutes ago, it really is about a partnership and no party trying to do it on their own. It's just really deeply getting to know the needs and the vacancies that the school has and how to best support within those, and recruit kind of accordingly.
There's another question in the chat. I suspect it's from somebody who's either current substitute or a potential substitute, wondering about how the full wage and benefits would work for someone who's working on a part-time basis to get more flexibility to pursue their own interests.
That's a great question. I think two slightly different things there. The flexible part-time work, we've seen is typically compensated right on a part-time basis. A substitute to certification pipeline where the substitute teacher does commit to full-time work is more where we'd see the full-time wages come into play. Right, but we see benefits of either. Like we saw from Kian and Laura, they're able to bring such wonderful expertise from outside of K-12 classroom teaching, things like dance, things like theater, and bring those experiences into the classroom. Right, they chose to do it in a more flexible way. The neat thing here is that we see options for people who want to teach. There's multiple avenues for them to pursue through subbing.
And a lot of agencies like Scoot do a lot of work to make sure on the front end that what we offer for those part-time daily folks, it's still a very comparable and competitive wage. Because we do know that this work is still a job, no matter if you do it for 1 day or you do it for 180 days. So we do our best to make sure that what we offer our educators feels like the respect that the job deserves.
I'm not seeing any more questions or comments in the chat. Here's one that just came in. Since you are an agency, is your sub rate different from districts you service?
That's a great question. It depends on the district. So one of the things, and Tim, stop me if I go over, but here at Scoot in particular, that is my frame of reference. I don't want to oversell it, but just want to name what I understand to be true. We have a service offering called Total Support. And so what we do in the total support space is we will go into a district, we will assess your current sub pool, the number of needs you have on average, what the cost is per sub, per school, et cetera. And then we will work with you to make sure that we can take over your sub pool. And then we would manage that on the HR, workers' comp, benefits, et cetera, 401k front. So in most instances where we do support a district, we do not try to come in and charge them more than what they were already paying for their educators. I think there's usually a premium because some of the things that you currently have to, take on, for example, workers' comp, PTO, days off, sick time, we would take on all of that. So there's a premium that we charge over and above for districts, but we find that the districts that do take us on in the long run, like school year in review, find that they have great savings because all of that HR work is taken on by us.
Question, do you assign certain teachers to certain buildings, like long-term subs, or like a supply teacher who works within the same school but maybe in different classrooms, depending on the need or vacancy of the day?
Yeah, I think because we do so much work of actually getting to know our schools and our districts, we are able to say like, okay, we have this pool of qualified educators that are certified. We have a number of certified teachers who are coming back to answer the call. And Teach Start has a number of certified teachers who are coming into the pool to answer the call, right? And so we do a great job of matching those spaces based on need because of that partnership. So we do our best to make sure that the people who just want to do day-to-day spaces do day-to-day. And the people who have the acumen, desire, and ability to do long-term, they fill those spaces with our schools as well.
Good. Here's another question. How do you make pursuing a substitute license affordable for candidates? And what bureaucratic barriers do you help reduce for them?
Oh, I think that's a great Teach Start question, Nama.
Yeah, great questions. And so we work to reduce some of those and encourage others in the field to be doing the same. In terms of pursuing the license with our Sub to Cert fellowship at Teach Start, we do work to reimburse some of those components for our fellows, particularly related to application fees, et cetera, for obtaining that substitute teacher license. And we also do work to reimburse things like exams and things that our folks need in order to become credentialed. And so in terms of those bureaucratic barriers, right, some of those are financial too, working to reimburse those key milestones along the way, but also just making sure that our folks are really supported with what they need to do along the credentialing process. Sometimes it can be really hard to navigate just the steps of like, what does it take to obtain my sub permit? And so we have dedicated staff working with folks to make sure they know exactly what's on that checklist and somebody who's working to take off those steps along the way. Also just, right, the navigating, once that sub permit is in hand, all the different steps to get credentialed, including, navigating institutional choice, exams, like we mentioned. Every state has different checklist items along the way. So dedicating staffing and advisory capacity to those, working to minimize as much time as possible by providing an assist wherever we can. And also in our fellowship, we offer a benefit that we call study days. So as part of the Teach Start Fellowship, our fellows have occasional paid days where they have release time from schools to actually work on these criteria. We know that somebody who's working full-time and trying to be in school and, having a life, that these things are really challenging to find time for, right? When do I take that exam? When do I take the time to fill out this application or complete this discussion post? And so we've built a container within our fellowship to provide some dedicated time for those things.
So I poked the bear, I guess. All of a sudden we got a bunch of new questions here, which is awesome. Do you work with different states for this work? If so, do you also partner with teacher prep programs in those states for your candidates?
Mhm.
We do work in a variety of states with Scoot. With our general substitute teaching, we're in 9 different states across the country. Our Teach Start substitute to certification pipeline is currently operating in California and Arizona, and we are looking to expand that in the future. And just with us, as with other substitute to certification pipelines that arise, yes, local credentialing partnerships are absolutely a part of that. And I'm also seeing a question here, Tim, about all subs working towards earning cert. We have multiple avenues because for some folks, it's not the time for them when they really want to pursue this, but they might still want to access full-time subbing as a potential career choice. And so we do provide those options for folks who want to work with us. Flexible part-time, full-time, full-time with certification.
Mhm.
How do you help sub not get overwhelmed and disengage and stop picking up assignments?
That is such a good, Miss Savage, you want to come work with us? That is such a good question. We try our best to make sure that we do things that make being a part of our team fun as well. So I know that NAMA, for our Teach Start fellows, they have a dedicated consultant that actually helps them through the process of knowing all the red tape and steps to get certified, but also just checks on them. Hey, how are you doing? Right? Like, how was school today? Was it pretty rough? Was something going on? And so we do the same thing in our traditional, just straight subbing space. I have a team of 9 across the East Coast, and we have check-in times where everyone breaks down their list. They call all their educators. We get on the phone. Hey, how you doing? Today might have been rough. It was really cold outside today. It snowed today in New Jersey. There was a flood in Florida. There was snow in DC, whatever the case may be. But we really like that human touch from our consultants. We also do things like happy hours. We know teachers like to have a good time. So we also really encourage our educators to meet one another. I think it's really hard when you do this work in a silo and you think you're the only one who had a bad day, or you're the only one who the kids wouldn't sit down and do all their work today for. And so knowing that you're not alone really helps. Also, because our schools allow us to come into their buildings, we go check on our folks, right? So if I haven't heard from a teacher for a couple of days, I'm gonna go check, like, hey, just checking in, see you've been here for a few weeks, or if I haven't seen someone pick up some bookings, hey, Nama, haven't heard from you in a couple of weeks, is everything okay? And that has gone so far for us because people are not used to being sought out when they kind of dissipate, right? And so that human touch for us has been a huge lever in making us a place that people want to stay. We have a number of subs that have been with us for years now because of checking on us. Like, I don't want to disappoint Jasmine. It's like, yes, don't disappoint me. And make sure this is what you still want to do. So I think that really helps us, that checking in, making sure we're going to school, seeing them in action, giving shout outs. We have newsletters, we do happy hours, we have communal spaces for them, but we make the job feel like a community, and not like a sub in a building who's just there as an add-on, as opposed to a part of the scout team and their school team.
How do you utilize higher education institutions while recruiting student teachers as substitutes?
Such a good question. I'll speak for Scoot and then I'll certainly let Nama talk about that from the teach stripe perspective. We love to find a student teacher who wants to get paid to student teach. It's like ideal for us, right? And I think something that more institutions of higher learning should push such that they can get more people in the doors. But that's a different story for a different PD, right? But we love to reach out to schools and say like, hey, do you have some student teachers that need to teach this quarter? We'll make sure that they get the tutelage under a certified teacher, and the days that they're not under the required hours, they can come sub. So we've done tabling at school universities, we do career fairs, we hire alums from local universities, and then we go right back. Hey, you just graduated from Rutgers or Keene. Again, these are Northeast schools, New Jersey specifically schools. Howard in DC, FAMU in Florida. We go on campus to let them know like there are ways or avenues for you to sub, even if you're not an education major, right? You have a math degree, you have a bio degree, whatever the case may be. How can you use that now? How can you use your credits that you have right now? And so we really push that. We also push the fact that we're on social media, right? So we like to get where the young people are. Become my mom. But we go where the people are, right? And so making sure that we're posting on college campus websites, that we're posting flyers on campuses and things like that is something that's really helped us to push recruitment on campuses for our traditional subbing space.
You got it.
Go team.
Okay. Actually, Dr. Reitman, follow-up question in the chat. So candidates have to pay up front first? Question mark. What happens if a candidate has financial challenges that makes it difficult for them to pay licensing and testing fees? Is there flexibility in the reimbursement arrangement?
Thank you so much for this question, Heather, because it's something that is so top of mind for us in terms of our pipeline program is reducing these financial barriers for our folks. They do currently have to pay upfront for those pieces, and grants are something that we're continually exploring as we scale and grow and evolve the program. So this is very much a question that we are asking ourselves on a regular basis and working to adapt to. One example of that is that we do provide a grant for folks to access exam prep resources. So things like buying an exam prep book or accessing tutoring services or a class or things like that. We also made a shift earlier in the year, not only to reimburse for an exam attempt, but also for the passing attempt then if somebody needs to take an exam multiple times. And so you hit it. We are constantly asking ourselves this question in terms of how we need to continually adapt to best support our folks, especially for those who are having financial challenges. And while I'm off, I see, there's another question about registered apprenticeships. That is something that we are exploring at the moment.
All right, here's another one. As a vendor working with multiple states, how do you ensure that you are complying with the varied legal requirements for substitutes and even the varied local requirements? This would seem enormously complex.
It is, Tim. That's because it is. What I love about working for Scoot in particular is we really do our best to hire people who know their regions, right? So I live in Jersey. I'm a Jersey girl, born and bred, but the work I do here is because I know this space. The work that's happening in California, people who manage California, that is their home. They know that space. And so I think Scoot does a great job of hiring people who know their own geographies and know what it takes to be successful. And then we grow, right? We continue to amass more scooters, as we call ourselves, and all the spaces to make sure that we are doing right by the compliance. But also, again, that partnership with our schools is invaluable. So as we're with our schools, making sure that these relationships make sense. Are we doing all the things to be compliant? For example, in Florida, because it's Florida, The ESE requirements or our ECE, so early childhood education, and the ESE, so exceptional student experience teachers, those certifications and those background checks are different. So if you're in a federally funded ECE program, you have to be federally background checked, Florida background checked, and then there's another child protection background check to make sure that you're not a registered sex offender. So making sure that we just know what the schools need. Conversely, DC, the District of Columbia, has not one, not two, not three, but 4 different levels of background check to make sure that you're doing the right thing in DC. So just making sure that whatever space we go to, whether it's being a partner for our schools, but also being a partner in the work, just really respecting where we're going. It is a huge undertaking. So thank you for naming that. But I think that's what makes our work unique, is that we do our best to respect and comply everywhere we go on the school front and then also legally.
Fantastic. Well, I think you finally answered every question that was possibly could have been asked, right? Awesome job. Awesome job. Thank you so much, Nama and Jasmine. It's been a pleasure to host your presentation today. And thank you to our attendees and to viewers for joining us. Please consider joining AAE for our next webinar on March 14th, when our friends from the New Teacher Talk podcast interview a panel of young educators from across the US to share what they have experienced and learned during their early careers. Registration is now open. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Thanks, everyone. Take care.